Welcome to Political Trade Secrets, an inside look at campaigns and politics, where we pull back the curtain, look under the hood, and investigate all aspects of politics and how elections are won. Now, here's your host, Dustin Olson.
And welcome to Political Trade Secrets. I'm your host, Dustin Olson. It's great to have everybody joining us from across the internet. Today we are broadcasting on 12 different platforms, whether you're on Twitch, you're on Twitter, you're on Periscope, you're on YouTube, Facebook, wherever else I've forgotten. You are joining us to talk about vision versus message. We're going to be talking about how that plays into your strategy, the tactics, etc. We're going to have a good time talking about that to hopefully empower you as citizens of this great country to be the political leaders that you have been called to be, and to help all of us reignite American patriotism. And we really do appreciate you joining us from across the internet. You can join us by posting comments wherever you're watching. Just post a comment, a question. You can join the conversation there as well. And I'm very grateful to be joined by my co-host, Sean Bartley. Sean, how are you doing this morning?
Doing well. Good morning to you. Good morning to everybody listening and watching out there. We really appreciate it. And looking forward to, I think this is going to be a great topic for folks to really get an idea of the differences between message and vision and how they work together. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and we're going to talk a little bit about the stuff that's going on in the news from this perspective as well. Thank you for the good mornings. It's great to have people joining us from around the internet, and thank you very much for doing that. This is I'm looking forward to this conversation. Let's just if you are wherever you're at across the internet, the first thing to do is if you haven't joined the Share Force, you should join the Share Force. But it really is as simple as right now, at this very moment, you can go and share wherever you're watching. Just share the program to your audience. If you think that there are people that you know who would love to know about vision and how to clarify your vision, how to use it to clarify your message and to power your message, then you would want to share this program. So thank you for everybody who's already doing that. And if you would like to also become a Political Trade Secrets insider, go to politicaltradesecrets.com. You can also watch the program there and join us from that location. We'll have exclusive stuff for you by signing up. And it's a great way to ensure that we all can be in communication. Right now, we're going to talk a little bit about cancel culture here in a moment. And there's been a lot of people that folks have been trying to cancel, but at the same time, I think they're being rewarded for their bravery in many cases, not every case. But we want to be able to make sure that we are able to communicate and connect. And so go to politicaltradesecrets.com to do that. And Sean, would you like to tell us about our sponsors?
Yeah. Hey, are you thinking about running for office? Or you want to discuss how you can be the best political leader for your community, state, or even the country? Reach out to us at olsonstrategies.com. It's OLSON strategies.com. You can email me at Sean, SEAN, at olsonstrategies.com, or Dustin at olsonstrategies.com. We'd love to have a conversation with you about what it takes to make a difference in your neck of the woods today. We're also proud to be sponsored by Grassfire. What do? Canvassing, petitioning, live calling. It's really all of the one-on-one communication that a campaign needs to do to either get themselves or their issue onto the ballot, or to really connect with people where they are. And so Grassfire does it better than anybody in the business. We're proud to have their sponsorship, and you should reach out to them to make the first impression that your campaign wants. It's Grassfire, www.grassfire.us. That's the way.
And likely the only impression in most cases.
Yeah, well, and especially that human interaction. It really is about the only time that'll happen, especially with what's been going on the last year. It is Grassfire who does it in a way that you'll be proud of. They also fuel 10centtexting.com. This is a way for you to connect with voters right where they are. Look, people open text messages. It's what that content has in it is if it's lasting and it makes an impression on them or not. And that's where 10-cent texting comes in. They literally wrote the book on effective political texting. So you can go download that book. It's their free gift to you. And really utilize this tool to actually interact with your voters where they are. It is a tool that can really make a difference for your constituents or your voters. So reach out to 10centtexting.com today.
All right. So please do support our sponsors. It is what makes it available for us to do this, and we really do appreciate them. And I want to start off. We're going to talk about different things going on around the world right now. And the first thing I wanted to point out, we did a President's Day special yesterday. One of the things that we got when we were talking about our 100th episode, 100th live streamed episode last Friday, and I guess we're now on 103, I think, because we did a couple over the weekend, or actually 104. But, one of the things that came up is that our holiday specials are some of the more interesting ones because they bring in other things. We talked about Martin Luther King Jr. on MLK Day, and we talked about vision in that episode as well. We talked about the vision exercise that we do with people, and that was really great. We're going to talk about that a little bit here as we talk about vision, but it really gives us an opportunity. And one of the things that was happening as we were live streaming is that there were actually people spontaneously showing up all over the place around the country to do President's Day celebrations supporting our favorite president, Donald J. Trump. And so while we talk about this stuff, I just wanted to show some of the folks out there who were they were being patriotic and supporting our former president. It's pretty remarkable. This isn't something you'd expect to see.
No, it really I think it really shows where people are on President Trump and really showing support for him. I mean, I think this notion, and you're seeing it overall. I mean, I think the Impeachment 2.0 was really an extension of cancel culture.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're no kidding. That's what they're setting out to do, and it seems to be backfiring in a lot of these. And we're going to talk about that, but I think it's backfiring here. I think people are like, wait a minute, I need to, I want to come out and show the guy that I support him, and there's no reason he feels at home at Mar-a-Lago.
Florida is a much different place, and thank you to the audience member who let us know that this stuff was happening. Actually, several audience members reached out and mentioned it. Yep, thank you for sending the pictures to us. You're one of the folks who let us know about this and the former president being celebrated on President's Day, and it happened in your town. That's pretty cool. It is really Florida. It seems to be the place. No wonder Joe Biden wants to quarantine everybody from Florida and keep people from there, because it really is. It's so amazing. It's in the last week. So I've been on Clubhouse and I've been listening to what people are talking about, because it's the new thing that the people are doing out there. And I have heard a lot of different entrepreneurs. There's a lot of entrepreneurs on there, and it's interesting. There's a young lady. I don't remember what her name is. You could easily find out. She is the one who invented the. I'm sure you know about this, Sean. I think you probably use them fairly frequently. The magnetic eyelashes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You always get compliments on your eyelashes. No, so they. So anyway, I barely know about this, but I think maybe some of my sisters-in-law had some of these. So she's taken this business that was like $10,000, dollars, like the first few months, to $50 million in the last year or so. Really remarkable. Young person who she moved to Miami because that was the place that she thought would have one of the best kind of startups, and there's a lot of great network there. And there's just a lot of people who are moving to Florida, a lot of people who are moving to Texas as well. But it just seems like it's the frontier of where you can actually be free right now. And
Yeah.
you can just watch the pictures of all these people. You can actually say that you like our president, our former president, and here we go. Biden is afraid Floridians' patriotism is contagious. Yeah, it really does feel like when you go to. I've been to Florida a few times in the last year, and it definitely just feels like a different place than where I'm at in Northern Virginia right now.
Well, and I appreciated that comment. You might have been actually in my mind. I was going to say what he really wants to stop the spread of is patriotism, not.
It's totally right. That's a great point. Well, so that's one of the things we just wanted to show. There's the president right now. He's coming by with the motorcade there. He stopped by to say hello. This is just one of many that was going on at this time around the state and really around the country. I assume there's people who are supporting this stuff. I hadn't heard about it until our audience started letting us know about it. Well, going on. So we're going to be talking about vision and message. And before we do that, you mentioned all the cancel culture. We had last week. We had the Bachelor on, and we talked about Gina Carano with the Star Wars, the Mandalorian, and Disney basically canceling her because she basically just. I mean, I for most of these people, I don't even know what they've said in most cases, and I don't really care too much very often. But apparently most of the stuff she said was just standard Republican things, and people didn't like it, and they got her canceled. And she now has the new project with Ben Shapiro. And I really like seeing people be supported when they are canceled. So with that in mind, I don't know if you've heard of Andy Ngo. He's a investigative journalist. I'm sure there's things he's done I don't care about or whatever. I'm not really, but I just as a matter of course, and I'm also looking forward to getting my pillows. I've never really wanted a my pillow before, but because they're trying to cancel the guy, I'm planning to go ahead and buy a my pillow at some point. So that is I think is the productive way to deal with the cancel culture is to go support people who are. Anyway, so I just went ahead and got his book. It showed up yesterday.
Awesome. Well, Andy used to report on riots when they were okay. I don't know if
yes.
you know that was
back when they were just good old fashioned Antifa tearing down Minneapolis and Portland and whatnot.
Yeah, back when they were considered mostly peaceful. So that was
exactly. This is called Unmasked: Inside Antifa's Radical Plan to Destroy America or Destroy Democracy, and I'm looking forward to reading that. But go ahead.
Yeah, and so but his reporting on this was really great. I mean, he actually went out to the front lines of where these things were happening and really told that story in stories. And I've not read the book, but I assume it'll actually really culminate that all together. And but he did a great job on that. So of course, regular media would want to shut that down. I mean, that is no surprise.
It is. This is where I would say people should be going. There's fake news all around. There's just today. There's like so much fake news that's being unearthed. A lot of the fake news from the last month is now like the New York Times. I've been keeping my powder dry to talk about the January 6th stuff and waiting to see what would happen. Tucker Carlson did a report last week talking about how really it's hard to talk about it, but there's the initial reports that there were people who were beating one of the cops, and that's how he died. And even the New York Times apparently on I think it was Saturday has come out and has done a sort of retraction on that and said that that wasn't completely accurate. So I think still the fog of war is still there, that you can't really know. But the thing is just why the maybe principle is so important, is that take things with a grain of salt. Say, yeah, maybe, maybe not. Believe none of what you see and half of what you hear. That's the way to look at it. So anyway, I pre-ordered his book, so it just showed up. So very few people will have been able to read it yet, and I think that's a great way to support people. And interestingly, the day that we interviewed Ben Higgins last week, and we didn't get into it with him because we didn't really know about it yet. At the same time, Chris Harrison of The Bachelor was in the process of being canceled and has now left the show. And unfortunately, it looks like Ben is looks like he might be piling on a little bit. I don't get this. I don't get why people don't get what the cancel culture was doing. Some of what Chris Harrison said, I thought sounded stupid. Like the second part of what he said. The first part, when he talked about we should show people grace, was amazing. He was talking about this young lady who went to a antebellum themed party, which I have a story I want to tell you about that in a second. But what were your thoughts about the Chris Harrison thing and and everything that happens with The Bachelor, which for the rest of us, when we've seen it over the years, we're kind of like, I don't think these people are really all that inclusive to begin with.
No, it's well, part of me finds it ironic that now the cancel culture is probably what's going to end up destroying the Bachelor franchise. At the end of the day, I mean, you can kind of see it, and because the more they do this, their fans demand more canceling. Like, oh yeah, well, I'm glad you canceled that. Now you need to cancel this, and then you need to cancel this, and then you need to cancel this, and you're going to end up with an even smaller pool of what this looks like at the end of the day. So I think now they've kind of backtracked on this a little bit too. They say, well, he's just not going to be there for the
after the final
rose and some of the other.
It is so funny, and I imagine people find it humorous watching us talk about this. I don't think either. Well, you may have watched it before, but I have never actually watched a full episode yet, because we worked on a show with the people from the show, and with Ben, we actually know about all the different aspects of the show with never having watched it before.
Yeah, it's. Yeah,
so we're part of Bachelor Nation, I guess.
Yeah, well, and I have conversations with fans, and they talk about this stuff. But it is truly remarkable. They're saying, "Oh no, we're not canceling, but we're canceling," and and we'll just see how this all plays out. I mean, I think they're hoping that some of this blows over, but but they've really created this whole culture when they go after people, and they've basically said, yeah, we're going to start tracking people for their beliefs before they even join the show. So you're not going to get a cross section of suitors either. I mean, it's just not, it's already so I think they're really kind of creating like this is going to be the thing. But one of the things that they're going to end up missing is, basically every reality show is make sure there's drama.
Oh, so, don't worry. Our experience with all this is that they will find ways to cause drama. And honestly, I kind of wonder sometimes if they don't mind whatever's going on with all this stuff, and they actually court it a little bit. And Chris Harrison gets the joke. His apology was so over the top that you just kind of wonder if he even meant it in any serious way. I thought his first part of his statement was really spot on when he was actually the thing that he's being canceled for, when he said that we need to show grace to people, and what's being done to this young lady and to her family is unconscionable. I thought that was all pitch perfect, and it's really what is needed in the conversation. Now, when he said it's different today than it was in 2018, and he was saying 5 years ago, well, part of the problem is he got the math wrong. But the thing is, going to an antebellum themed party is always stupid. And I have a personal story about that. I went to school at Washington and Lee University, and I was in a fraternity that was generally from all over the country, and we had a pretty diverse group of guys. But we were across the street from the Kappa Alpha fraternity, which is the fraternity that was mentioned, that has the Old South, and we were rivals. And so every year we threatened to have a Sherman's March to the Sea Ball, and we were going to put a Mason-Dixon sign in the middle of the road, and we were very much anti the Old South Ball. And I'm going to admit this on this live stream at this point. So I had to do community service back in college because we actually actively thwarted the Old South ball that they had we orchestrated a group of guys, went in with catfish gut bait. We rolled it into little balls and we put it all over the house. Now this actual Kappa Alpha fraternity is the Alpha fraternity, so it's the original. It was started in honor of Robert E. Lee there at Washington and Lee University. So we thwarted this Old South ball, the one that got this whole bachelor thing going. We put the catfish gut bait all throughout the house and the heaters, and all over the place. And so the next morning, the day that they're supposed to have their Old South party, which is it was really cold. It was December. It was a really cold weekend in Lexington, Virginia. I went to class the next morning, and I was so disappointed because it looked like nothing had happened. But by the time I got back from class, they had all the windows open, and they were all out in the front lawn. They had to have their Old South party in about 30-degree weather that night outside because they couldn't be inside of the building. So anyway, I got community service for that. There's no record or anything like that. That was just what the fraternity decided was the punishment for that, which I did with my radio program. That's how I actually served it. Anyhow, we fought the Old South ball, so I just wanted to make people know that we're on the right side of history when it comes to the Old South balls.
Have you ever thought about hosting The Bachelor?
Yeah. Well, now I'd be available because I definitely got at the time that it was a stupid thing to have an Old South ball, and something that we were very much against. But anyway, so that's my own little story. And interestingly, I went and got my hair cut after we did the show with Ben, and my barber, who's a fascinating guy and an interesting person just to talk about in general, and just how he's moved to America and started his business, and now has been very successful. But he actually, his wife had gotten a Cameo, which we were talking about recently. It's that service that you can get any celebrity to basically wish people happy birthday or whatever. But he had done a Merry Christmas message for my barber's wife, and he showed me the message, and Chris Harrison did an excellent job of doing his whole he brought in stories from the family, and he mentioned so one of the sons did it for the mom, and he mentioned other members of the family, and it was like he knew all of them. A very talented person, and I'm sure it was one of the best gifts. So Chris Harrison does cameos if you want to support him at this time. The fact that he's being canceled and all this is ridiculous in my opinion, and I think it's and that's from a guy who has been on the right side of this issue for more than 20 years. I've been fighting the Old South balls for a very long time, so whether it's 2018 or if it's 2000, I always have known that was a stupid thing. But that being said, Chris Harrison calling for grace for people, I think is a pretty on point thing. Yeah. And you can support him through Cameo. That's one way to support him in this.
Yeah, and it's probably at a discount today. So
I don't know. I think that's the thing to do. Is any of these folks is that they get support from folks.
Yep.
And that's the thing. I don't know if you want to talk about all the censoring going on. In a way, that is a form of canceling from the right. I think it's fun to watch Romney, Toomey, Cassidy, Burr, in particular, getting censured by Republican parties.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of different things here. One is, hey, there are consequences to what you say and what you do. I mean, that's a given. And that's one thing. And I think just kind of seeing it really goes to the hubris that was shown a few days ago versus what they're doing, since Saturday. Romney calling in all the favors of Utah Republicans again, to not go through a state party censure at least, is no surprise. It but it's something that he has to do. It probably is the only time that Utahns hear from him. So is when he
needs them to get him out of hot water. He's a real problem for the Utah Republican Party. The Utah Republican Party could be a very powerful, influential force in this country, and most of the time they're dealing with Mitt Romney. Like he kind of absorbs most of their influence.
Yeah,
honestly, is dealing with Mitt Romney problems, and so much of the party in that state just cannot stand him, and that is their number one person. Mike Lee has to walk on eggshells because of it. It really is a problem for the state. He's not been a value add, parachuting into the state and taking over a leadership role.
It gets to the broader unity. Mitt Romney's really done nothing to bring people together, so he's more of a moderate guy. That's not really the problem here, but he's really done nothing to say, you know what, I'm going to be somebody who can bridge the gap. He basically says, I'm going to do whatever I want. And if you don't like it, you're against unity. That's his message. It's vaguely familiar to that you hear from Chuck Schumer. I mean, so that's kind of how this Mitt Romney thing goes. I really think about guys like Cassidy here, who has been all over the map, and he's kind of reaping what he sows about it. Part of it is
so bad for Louisiana because they just reelected him. They do not want him. I would expect that even going to whatever they would call a Lincoln Day dinner in Louisiana, I don't know if they call it down there, but whatever their state fundraiser is, I cannot imagine a Bill Cassidy being welcome ever again at something like that.
Well, I hope they're renaming them Reagan Trump dinners. And those are the things that Bill Cassidy has to go to.
That would be excellent. That would actually we should push for that across the country. And with Burr doesn't make any sense. I don't know what's going on, but I loved Lindsey Graham's comment that Senator Burr just made Lara Trump almost the certain nominee for the Senate seat in North Carolina to replace him if she runs. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah,
and I think North Carolina would go for that.
Well,
this is something I want to say about her. So yes, she has a famous last name. Yet one thing that she's also done is she's been out there speaking in front of the camera over and over and over again. She has really developed a skill set. This is kind of what we would say to people is, put yourself out there, start speaking on issues, be in the public eye, start practicing what it is to be a political leader. She really has done the work to do it. Now it's been for her father-in-law's message, but she's educated herself on the issues and she's learned how to talk about them in a way that's compelling. And I think this is one of the benefits of this last 4 years is we're going to have a new crop of people who are better communicators.
Oh, absolutely. I think you also see it with Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She really, she really got an education on being in front of the camera.
And trial by fire, like so absolutely.
Much. But delivering really every day. I mean, heck, she did a fine job for the president, and now it's going to make her a better candidate. So
yeah. I remember when she was first named as the campaign manager for her dad when he was running for president way back when, and you're like, oh, he has his daughter doing it, and what does she have a lot of experience? She has grown so much, and this is one of the things about being in the white hot crucible of trial by fire is that I think she'll be a great governor because she has been really in the hot seat so often. She's had to think on her feet. She has had to deal with really tough issues, and this develops leadership for sure. That she's going to be able to. I just imagine her in a crisis. If Arkansas were to deal with a crisis, Sarah Huckabee Sanders is going to be prepared to deal with that.
Yeah. Oh, I agree, and I think, and you're so true about the growth, and it really says something about, we've talked about before. President Trump is really a great judge of character and ability,
Yeah.
and one of the things he learned on that presidential campaign is, this Sarah Sanders has got something.
Mhm.
Might be a little raw or whatever, but she's got what it takes. So let's envelope that in.
Mhm.
And so it's interesting because that's something that the president didn't get a lot of credit for, which was he really did, the every 4 years we get the team of rivals talk. There was
Mhm.
no talk of that for President Trump at all, and he actually embodied that more than most presidents.
Yeah.
Um,
One of the things he's good at, a good judge of character. One of the things I think that makes it look that way even more so is he's also really quick on firing people.
yep.
And because when you look at somebody who, so we've done a lot of campaigns, we've hired hundreds of people, and you never, the interview, the whole process, you talk to references, like you can never fully know what someone's going to be like until they're in the job. And they're in the job. The key is to quickly determine when somebody's in the job if it's not right for them and to move on. And he has this ability to also do that. Like when he sees them working, like he moves on quickly if they're, they get the you're fired pretty quickly if it doesn't work out, and he moves on. And then he ends up with better people, bubbling up is what I saw during his time.
Absolutely. Well, yeah. Really taking a look at that, we're going to have a great crop that does that. Thinking about what we're talking about today, the distinctions of vision and message. Um, there's one story out there that I kind of see coupling with cancel culture,
Hmm.
and it's the Return of Parler,
Yep.
and where vision comes in. And so look, you know a little bit more about this than me, but they've got a new CEO. You want to just talk a little bit about that and kind of how that.
Yeah, so it's been interesting to watch the whole Parler thing. Apparently, there was internal drama. It was partly why it took a little bit over a month to come back. They had Matsy, or however you say his name, was the previous CEO. He looked kind of like a kid, which there's nothing wrong with that. But there's certain, it was obvious he was on the way out. He was fired. They have a new interim CEO who's a more seasoned guy. But this is moving into the vision. There's a vision for that company, and kind of goes to the story brand idea that we've talked about. There's a hero in the story, and the hero is confronted by some kind of challenge, some kind of enemy, some kind of um, crisis that they deal with, and then out of that comes a tool, a plan, a way to win the day. And Parler is seeking to be that guide, be the Yoda in the story for all those whose free speech um, has been thwarted. So they're kind of creating this origin story. It's actually extremely powerful if they can keep going, if they can improve their technology. They now have not only a technology, but they have this origin story of the big. Actually, I think he said, we don't answer anymore to the big tech oligarchy. So this idea that there's these oligarchs, these big tech oligarchs, the people like um, you know uh, all the different billionaires that are involved in these different companies. So like Bezos in particular, he's the one who looks like a supervillain. Honestly, I mean, every time I see the picture of him, like he's eating some kind of hors d'oeuvre. I don't know if you've seen that picture, and he just looks like he looks like Lex Luthor, honestly. And anyway, so they've taken on these supervillains, and that's their origin story. Is they tried to shut them down, and now here they are. So he's described, this new CEO is describing himself as a warrior for free speech, an advocate for the First Amendment. So it's more than just about we're providing this technology that you can talk to people. they have now made everything about this greater vision of free speech being defended, free speech being unthwarted, free speech. They are a warrior for it, and that has now made it about something that is, I think, universally. It's a universal value, which is ultimately what a vision gets to. It gets to a universal value. So that's one of the things I wanted to mention. I can't get it to work on my phone yet, but so who knows? I do think there's technological issues that they're still dealing with. However, they're about something, and there's going to be a lot of people in this country who are going to want to be about that.
Yeah.
And every time you see a Chris Harrison or somebody else, a Carano or others who are being canceled, this is going to be one more reminder. Like every time that conversation comes up, they will be part of the antidote to it.
Yeah, and so it goes to something. First off, I don't think it's something they fully embraced prior to being shut down. I think, they
I
were.
think that's why Matsy was fired.
I
Ultimately.
agree. Yeah, and part of it was so. It also gets to. It's a great lesson when you're not living into your vision.
Mm-hmm.
What can happen? Not that these things wouldn't have happened anyway, but
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a few things going on here. Is that when that's your broader vision, then shutting you down basically tells folks out there, like, oh yeah, that's exactly what they were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think it would have made it more difficult to shut them down to begin with.
Yeah.
If they were living into this, like, no kidding, the overlords are coming to stop you next. And then, it says, well, maybe we shouldn't stop them for fear of getting bigger,
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's that going on. But now that you're living into that, it also makes the things that you're talking about. Will there be technology issues? Yes. I mean, they're working on a completely different platform.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing this completely differently than they were even doing it a month or a month and a half ago. So, are there going to be technological issues? Yes. And is it more likely that you, the user, is going to be like, oh, well, that's kind of the way these things go because you're committed to the broader vision? Well, yeah. And so I think there's going to be, back to Chris Harrison's statement, there's going to be more grace around this because they get like what's at stake if you don't kind of just stick with them. So you're going to stick with them on this. You're going to, so, I think there's a whole slew of things that are going to come out of this by just having this vision that you're clearly sharing with people. And they
It makes it.
they log in.
Say that one more time.
Oh, sorry. And they get to, we, the user, get to be a part of that every time we log in.
Yeah. So it's ultimately, and we talk about vision, and this is something we talked about yesterday with the President's Day episode. We talked about it with the Martin Luther King Jr. Day episode. Vision is largely becoming part of something, being a part of something bigger than any one person, being a part of something bigger than oneself. And that is by having that large calling, that large, like that bigger vision. That's why we call it a vision. It's, you're seeing beyond the horizon. And that is the process that we want to tap into. Now, there's going to be a little bit of a difference between the message that you are speaking about. It needs to be informed by the vision, but it may not be exactly the vision. Now, if you are really lucky, your vision can be exactly the same as your message. That doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't happen most of the time. But having a vision that is so powerful that you can talk about it all the time is what you want to be looking at. And I want to mention a resource here. We have we have we are Republicans, we're conservative, and or at least we hold conservative beliefs, and we have party registrations in the Republican Party. But we have Democrats on as well to tell us their thoughts. We have people who aren't really political, like Ben last week, on. And anyway, this book, Buck Up, Suck Up, and Come Back When You Foul Up. They edited that, so it didn't rhyme. But James Carville and Paul Begala, this is actually one of the better books if you want to have a sense for what it is to be a political consultant, to be a campaign manager. And James Carville, I believe, was a Marine at one point. may have that wrong, and if I do, then whatever. But this does come from the military. United States Military Academy teaches its cadets to analyze a mission on 3 tiers: objective, strategy, and tactics. The objective is the broad goal. Strategy is the plan of action for achieving the goal, and tactics are the various steps you take to get there. Now, the way I think about this, and the way kind of that they talk about it, they talk about the objective being winning the election, and that is kind of part of the objective. But what we have seen in the last few years is we expand the objective. The objective really is your vision, is to think back from, a decade from now, or maybe the end of your service. And we've did this with the vision exercise, thinking back on everything that's occurred in your entire service. What is it that's now possible because you served? Like, what is it that your life has been given to in your public service? Like, when you look back at the end of your life, what has it all been about? And if you can make that the objective, if you can have that be so clearly defined for you, that then is going to influence the strategy, which we would equate more with the message. It's the overall argument, the choice that you're presenting people. And then the tactics are really just the issues and topics that you talk about that can undergird the overall strategy, that message strategy, and ultimately have you achieve your vision, make your vision a reality as the objective. What's the what thoughts would you like to add to that, Sean?
Yeah. Well, I think about the objective, and when it really is about the broader vision. I think about one of our clients who really wanted to make adoption easier.
Yeah.
Like, no kidding. That's why he wanted to run for office. It was like,
You
kids.
wanted to make it so that the number of adoptions in this country were greater than the number of abortions.
That's right. And he wanted to make sure that kids had a loving home to be in.
Mm-hmm.
And, and he saw the avenue for that was running for office. He was running in a tough seat. But we worked with him. He ran a great campaign. He wasn't,
He did better than anybody ever gave him, credit for,
yeah.
or ever thought he could ever do.
But what came out of that is really sharing that and talking about that and the broader idea of, why his service would make a difference, is that, he even reached out to the person who beat him in the race and said, hey, I want this to become reality. Mm-hmm. And the opponent in office went on to carry the legislation for him. So, because he got that what he was up to was the ultimate goal.
That was the commitment. It's ultimately what you're doing is you're giving yourself more ways to win. That's why we take it to the objective being larger than just winning the election. Now, that's extremely important. But if you have it that your objective is actually your vision being reality, you might take actions that are beyond an election. And that's the case in this. And that's something I think we've added to it. This is something that Carville and Begala, I think Carville is more the one who is the thoughts behind this. So they point out that strategy is hard, tactics are easy. Tactics is what most people are thinking about. Most people want to talk about the, digital. They want to talk about how we're using targeting. They want to talk about the kind of the minuscule things. A lot of campaigns get caught up in the tactics, and I would say that's where most people. It's where political trade secrets. I think most people think that's what we would be talking about. Mm-hmm. We do, but we prefer to talk about the bigger things. The strategic is really the choice, and we're going to use the Olson strategy sweet spot in a second. But this is what they talked about when they talked about their work with Bill Clinton back in the early 90s when he ran for the presidency. So back then they had this whiteboard up in the war room at the Clinton campaign, and they had 3 lines: change versus more of the same, it's the economy, stupid, and don't forget healthcare. So it looked kind of like that, if that's seeable.
Yeah, a little bit. Yep.
So change was the message, and positioning Clinton as the candidate of change was the strategy. The economy, healthcare, welfare, reinventing government, and all the rest were illustrations of that basic message. They were the tactics, not strategy. So all those issues, the economy, healthcare, welfare, reinventing government, those were all tactics underneath the strategy of change versus more of the same. That was the choice that they were presenting, and then all those other things were ways to bring home that message. Now, one thing that we've talked about yesterday, one of the things we thought was kind of missing with Bill Clinton is was that vision thing, that being a part of something bigger than any one thing. The integrity portion of it also around vision, that having a real view of what the world would look like after a Clinton presidency. I don't think that was necessarily there for
Yeah.
him.
Well, and I think it kind of shows in that, right?
Mm-hmm.
When it's change versus more of the same, which is a fine message.
Yeah.
But it's not a vision.
Yeah, the change is change to what?
Yeah. Exactly.
And that is what that wasn't really clear for them. And you think about the vision as kind of being a guiding light, a northern star. It is the where you're going. If you run for Congress and you lose, and then you end up being in charge of this huge organization that then makes whatever it is that you want to have happen. Well, did it matter that you won that election or not? It maybe it put you in a position to actually have the influence that you wanted to have. And we've seen that with a number of people. We talked to Jeff Crank. It was one of the episodes we did end of last year, and he ended up working with Americans for Prosperity, and he's had a greater impact, I think, than he would have had if he had been in Congress at that time for the last decade or so.
Well, and so back to Clinton. Clinton's a great example of this. So when it's not vision that's driving you, it's the message.
Mm-hmm.
That's why in '93 and '94 you go after the crime bill, and you go after health care, and really the agenda of the Democrat leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And then in '95, when it's Newt Gingrich, then you triangulate.
Yeah.
So and people, I think people on both sides were like, "Why is this so easy for him?" Well, because when it really is change, and he was living into that, you got to give him credit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, change in
If
90
change your vision, then you're going to be constantly shifting.
exactly, and that's what he did, and so that's why in '93 and '94 it's okay. We're acting on things that we haven't been able to act on since the '70s.
Yeah.
And then in '95, it's, oh, okay, well, then we triangulate and we, okay, you want welfare reform? You got it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll veto things for a little while, but then I won't. And we'll fight on some things, but at the end of the day, we're going to let some things through. And that will define the rest of his presidency.
One thing that you're going to find is that so you might come away from what we just talked about thinking that your vision is hard and fast and it's always going to be the same. And that's not what you're saying. What you're saying is you have a clear vision, you know where you're going. But over time, one thing that we do find with people who are actually out to really clarify their vision is that it's going to shift. It's naturally going to, we say clarify, because you're going to get more to the core, to the heart, the essence of what it is as you go through this process. And but you have to be seeking to figure out what it is. What is that, almost that core value, that thing that ultimately a great vision has something that could be shared across cultures, across society, across differing socioeconomic backgrounds, differing race, religions. It doesn't matter. It's something that's going to be kind of a universal value is going to be at the core of it that really drives it, is something that I've seen.
Yeah.
That's why we talk about Martin Luther King Jr. That he really got to a core human dignity in his message, that somebody be judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. That's something that everybody would want, is to be judged by who they are, by their character, as opposed to anything else.
Yeah, and that's the broader vision. Now, the message underneath that kind of looks a little different.
At the time, it was civil rights legislation and opening up schools, and various different things were the things underneath that. but the
Yeah.
vision was the greater vision of having people be judged by the content of their character. One of the most powerful visions, so powerful that it gained a life of its own, and that's what you look for in a vision.
Yeah. Well, and I think about, Reagan really set out like, no kidding, we're going to win the Cold War.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that, that's why I'm running. We're going to stop communism. We're going to stop the spread of communism and win the Cold War. That was it. And,
I would even say the stopping communism and spreading of individual freedom
Yeah.
was the overall vision, and then winning the Cold War was actually just a part of that.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of other things that were happening at the time that also followed that. I mean, he also brought it into our own country. He opened up. He was one of the people. Well, with tax cuts and supply side economics, he was doing that at home as well.
Yeah. Well, and so it really, but it informed, so we say the vision really informs the message.
Yeah.
And it's really what you want. And so,
and it makes it about the objective is about the vision. It's about what it is that you hope to see happen or you are out to cause. And that way, whether you win the election or not, you can still be true to that vision. I want to go through a couple of the tools that people can use. So the first one is what we call the Merlin Principle. So remembering the future, what will your life be about? So we do this vision exercise with people, and we think about where it is that they, maybe they want to run for office. They want to be a county commissioner. Maybe they want to be a member of Congress. So we actually take them out into the future, and we talk about everything that's going on. And if somebody wants to work with us, we would actually do this in real time. It's a very powerful exercise. We're not going to be able to fully give it, paint the picture here. We actually have that person get really present to the moment that they've ended their service out there in the future, and then look back and remember what happened. Now they're remembering things that haven't actually happened. That's not the point of this. The point of this is to get out of the uncritical mind and to actually look at what it would look like to be out there in the future and looking back. Because one thing about strategy is that if you can look back from a goal accomplished, if you can look backwards, it is much easier to see what was necessary, what needed to happen in order to make that a reality. So it's a very powerful idea. And the reason why we call it the Merlin Principle is that Merlin in the Arthurian legend was said to have lived backwards. So he got younger through time. So he remembered the future. And so that's why we use that as an idea as to how that works. But if you stand out there at the end of your service and you look backwards, now we've had I don't know how many hundreds of conversations like this with people. What are some of the things that you have been maybe present to or insights you've had? Because we've had so many different people, different walks of life. Some people don't like thinking this way. But that's okay. Everybody can tap into this at some level.
What I'll say is for the people who open up and really get into what is possible out there, the conversation is not about the tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we lowered taxes or whatever. I mean, that's not important, but it really is about the broader thing that, hey, more people, maybe it's, 90% of people who, the amount of overdose deaths decreased 90%. Mm-hmm. And what that means is, more people have their sons or their dads or their, husbands around, mm-hmm. And instead of dying. And so that is something bigger than, and so what does that look like? Well, sometimes for some folks that's having hope. Yeah. Like, hey, wherever I'm at, there's the possibility for meaningful employment that can supply, that can provide for my family. Well, okay, well, how do you get to that? Well, then how do you get to that? Or things like lowering taxes and regulations and whatnot, where a lot of times the conversation's the other way. Well, I want to lower taxes and the amount of regulations. Okay, great.
Hmm.
What does that
What does
look like?
that make possible?
Yeah.
This is the, I think, the challenge. It's really insightful how you put that, because it's kind of like going through a funnel. They're going through the funnel backwards. They're going from the tactics and the issues I equate to tactics, the topics, and they start there, and then they move up the chain to the vision, which of course then you have a lot of constraints. You have a lot of blinders already on. You have a lot of um, you have the box being built around it, so the vision is inside the box ultimately, and that's what we're trying to break apart. We're trying to go the other direction through, start with a big vision, a big broad vision that really gets to the core of something that's really in essence something that really moves you to action, because this is what you're going to be living into. It's something you're going to be about. It's what your northern star, your north star, the thing that's going to drive you, and you won't know exactly what it's always going to look like. Now, here's the thing: is if you keep that, if you can clarify that vision and keep clarifying it and keep being more clear about what it is, over time, it's going to be a little bit different because you keep clarifying it, and you're talking to people, and they're adding their thoughts to it, and that's going to start having an impact on it. But if you had a service of like 20 years or 10 years, through those 10 years, there's going to be lots of different messages. And then there's also going to be a lot of tactical issues that you're talking about. They're all going to be in service of that greater mission, that greater vision. And throughout that time, if you can keep that vision as your North Star, you will always be moving towards it. Kind of like a ship is always off course. If you were a sailor or whatever, you get that you're always off course. You're always tacking, and you're always moving the tiller to try to get back on course, and that's what you're ultimately doing. And oftentimes, campaigns, you can see this in the middle of a campaign, and political leaders go off the rails, or get lost in the wilderness when they forget this, or they've never had it. Like, there's a moment in every campaign in the middle of it where you get caught in the weeds. You're like down in the tactics, and you're dealing with whatever attacks are happening at the time, and you forget about the larger vision. And there's a certain deadening impact of the campaign. You can actually feel it. It gets heavy, and you're not going back to that bigger vision. I know you've experienced that because we've experienced it together in campaigns.
Oh yeah. But having that out there is really the thing to live into. And um and by creating that first, then it's not like, yep, we have to get there and it has to look this way every step of the way. Um so there's a real freedom in creating that and then moving back from that. And so that's why the Merlin principle is so helpful.
Yeah. So when we do when we were using the Merlin principle, you're doing the vision exercise. The thing I've noticed is you can tell the person who has already started on the other end of the funnel, and it is a very frustrating conversation because it is completely constrained. And one of the big things, one of our big messages here is we're out to empower leaders, citizens who see possibility where other people may only see constraints. And you have this constrained conversation with somebody, and they are trying to tell you what the message is. And, they're answering the question in a very kind of antiseptic, almost no life to it way. I Sometimes I almost want to, if I don't see any promise there, I want to make the whole thing like we're not going to be helping this person when they want to do that, because it is not in any way inspiring. Like, there's no life to it. And inspiring something is to breathe life into something. There's no inspiration in it. It's very calculated is how it comes across. And that's one of the reasons why we make a distinction between vision and message. Message without vision is very calculated. And I think that's what we're talking about with Bill Clinton. It
Yep.
came across very calculated as to what they were doing, very manipulative. Message, oftentimes, when consultants and candidates talk about it, it can almost seem like it's a manipulation, unless it has the vision breathing life into the message. It's why when we're going to talk about, we're going to go through a couple of these. The next thing that we do is we look at the message matrix. So if you can get your vision, like you actually have this big idea, it may not be the most popular thing that everybody in the world cares about, but it's going to have you fight like hell to have it be accomplished, to do whatever it takes to win the day and to get out there, even when you're being attacked. It's like it's going to breathe life into everything. So you move to the next couple of things. We're going to go through the message matrix, the Olson strategy sweet spot, and then I want to bring up Bill Greener's ABCs of message, and you start to hone it down. And these are going to be the things that take that vision and have it apply to whatever you're doing. So anything else on the Merlin Principle or vision exercise, or you want to talk about the message matrix?
Yeah,
I drew up a little, one of my fun graphics here of the message matrix. If you want to tell people about this.
Yeah, so look, this is really where you take what it is that your strengths and their weaknesses. We talk about that in the sweet spot next, but you really get that into these 4 boxes, and you want to talk about how you talk about you and how you talk about what it is that you want to accomplish. And then you want to talk about how they talk about you. So how your opponents are going to talk about you, and really
how they could talk about you.
How they could talk about you. Yeah, you don't know that. But like a no holds barred, you want to get it all down so that you're prepared. This is really a preparation document here. Mm-hmm. And then how you can describe them, like your opponents, what it is they want to do. And so that goes down in that 3rd box. And then in the bottom right, it's them on them. So yeah, now we're them on them. Perfect. And this is how they talk about themselves. Okay. So, an example is.
And in that case, you want to think about it from the perspective of saying it as nicely as possible. What would they say about themselves?
Exactly. So, let's say that they're, Harvard and Yale educated. And, so, they might say, I've gone out and gotten all the best training and education to better serve you. Where you might say about them, they're an elitist who's going to bring, ivory tower values to your city or state or, to the Capitol or whatever. Those are both statements about the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. But you're the one, it's really who shapes it. And, then the voters get to decide, okay, well, is that a strength or a weakness? And, they really get to get in on that. Mm-hmm. You might say that you're a 5th generation resident of wherever, so you on you. They might say about you is that, you really have no experience outside of your, county or state or whatever, about what can actually grow your community. So that's another way this could go. And the list goes.
The main thing here is to be really honest in this process, but the view on you is where your vision is going to go, yep. Plus all of your bio, all the different things that you want to say. And you take it and basically you get to see the world from every different angle. But the thing is, if you started with this before the vision, it would be very constraining on the vision.
Yeah.
And so that's why you want to start. Now, if you've already done this and you need to go back, you always want to be clarifying your vision.
The truth is, if you do the message matrix first, you're not going to have any of your vision in there because you're not even going to think about it. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is a really good comment by someone. In behavioralism, so we're talking about starting from the end, like at the end of your service and coming back. In behavioralism, we call it backward chaining. In engineering, it's called reverse engineering. And that's good. In the military, it's called backwards planning. That's what they do is they work back from that. And let's see if we can get a couple of comments in here.
Yeah.
Alexandria says, good morning. It definitely feels like my message is getting stronger now that I am creating a clear vision for my next campaign. It is a great thing for us as potential and current candidates to have a strong vision to know where we want our campaign to go. I am proud to announce, fellow young conservatives, that I am now an intern for Olson Strategies. It's not too late to apply today to join us. Well, thank you very much for mentioning that. And yes, we are looking for more folks to intern and to be fellows with us. And we really do appreciate all of you who are committed to reigniting American patriotism, because that is the thing that can bring us all together, that we get that what we have in common is that we are Americans in this great system. And then the follow-up question with that is, for my vision, is running to make sure that number one, people feel safe when they call the police. So setting up a voluntary self-reported registry for when they call emergency services. This is some of my vision. Well, that's great. And the fact that you're even asking the question of what could be my vision, what really is important to me, and you're getting to the core of that. What I hear in there is people feel safe. So security is part of what that vision is in there. It's a universal value, and you can keep exploring that. And here's the thing: you don't have to get it right. That's one of the things in all this, is you don't have to get it perfect or right. You're constantly, as we would say, in the inquiry. You're looking, you're asking the questions. Let's go to the Olson Strategy sweet spot. And for today, I did another.
Oh my goodness. We're kicking it up a notch here. So look, the Olson Strategy sweet spot is you're really trying to get to the center of that Venn diagram there. It's your strengths, your opponent's weaknesses, and the voters' concerns. And you really want to get to the middle there. So you take some of that message matrix, right? We have your strengths, we have your opponent's weaknesses. It's right there on the sheet. Now, what we haven't gotten to there, right, is the voter concerns. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. You know, the way we suggest, of course, is a survey or a poll. That is one way to get there. And
the feedback loops, we talked about that the other day. Feedback loop, and really getting we talked about zeitgeist and feedback loops. That's what we're talking about here. What is the zeitgeist? What is a concern to the community and to the society and to your district? And polling, feedback loops, though, testing messages and hearing back from people, testing your vision, hearing back from people what really connects with them. Conversations is going to be a big part of that.
And I got the opportunity to have some conversations about this weekend, and really getting into, like, no kidding, knowing where the voters are on issues is so important. And it's something that a lot of campaigns forget. And it can be something that's missing in the polls. And it's something that we don't, when you're hearing the public manipulation polls, they just kind of give you a snapshot of what is called the top line, which
or the
is
horse race,
the horse race stuff.
Call it.
And when we look at that, we actually consider that to be one of the least important things in a survey, because we really want to get to what is it that's going to impact voters, and what is it that can change their mind. Like, if I heard this, if I knew this, that would make a difference for them. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about doing surveys, that's what we're talking about. And then in subsequent surveys, so, in races where you're doing multiple surveys, then it's, okay, well, did hearing this really make the difference? And where have we seen that? And so those are the things to be looking for. And that's where some of that data that a lot of campaigns go out and get, will make a difference and really be married to really conducting the Olson Strategies sweet spot and getting to the Olson Strategy sweet spot. So making sure you're doing that, and the feedback.
And ultimately, it's presenting a choice. I mean, that's ultimately what this is doing. The message matrix is just getting everything down on paper, ultimately. And I've told people, and anybody who's worked on campaigns with me where I've been the campaign manager, that I end up with whiteboards or those big sticky notes. I don't know what you call them, the presentation notes. And I have whole walls where the message matrix is everything that could be said in the campaign, or every potential component of the campaign is up on the wall. and I have the whole matrix there, because it's at that point you're not going to be surprised with the landscape. You're basically creating the landscape. And now in this, with the Olson Strategy Sweet Spot, you are creating the choice. You're ultimately taking all this information from the vision to everything that could be said in the campaign with the message matrix. And then you're starting to bring in, you're making it really clear the voters are part of this conversation. And then you are focusing the debate. You're creating the frame ultimately. And there's a great chapter in the James Carville and Paul Begala book, Buck Up, Suck Up. But you're ultimately doing, I just really got, I think I would call this the self-righteous quadrant, above the sweet spot. Because so many campaigns end up in this little area here where all you have is the distinctions between your strengths and the opponent's weaknesses. And that's where a lot of campaigns end up in the weeds, is they get so freaking self-righteous. They cannot stand their opponent. They hate their opponent. This is partly what we've watched in the last few weeks. It is so sanctimonious, self-righteous. They hate Trump so much that that's all that's driving the conversation, that the voters get forgotten. So that self-righteous quadrants, that the only distinction, the only choice that's being presented is between your strengths and the opponent's weaknesses, or at least your perceived strengths. And I think that's where that's why voters in particular are not too impressed with everything that's happened in the last few weeks.
Yeah. Well, and it's, and we're going to talk about Bill Greener's ABCs of messaging before, and when he described that, and we played the clip on the 100th episode, so folks go back and watch that. He talked about, look, in polling, you only get answers to the questions you ask from the people that you get to answer, that you get to ask the questions to, which seems pretty, like, yeah, duh. But, I think about this whole impeachment thing. One question that I don't know that any pollster asked, which is this something you want to see happen?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a pretty obvious question, and I think fear of knowing the answer kept pollsters and people who are paying for the polls, in particular, to ask, or to ask it. So,
yeah. So, so this is. I'm going to put this up in a second. So as you're going through from vision, so you start off with the vision, and that might be so up here high in the sky that it may not present the choice that voters need. But you want it to inform now the message. So you start clarifying, you use the message matrix, you get a sense for, because it's not going to all happen in a vacuum. You're going to have an opponent, you're going to have other people, you're going to have the media, there are all these components. And then you start thinking about what the voters' concerns are. So you bring this in, you start coming up with a choice. It could be that there's a bunch of sweet spots. There's a bunch of things you could be talking about.
Yeah.
So the next thing to do to start to separate that wheat from the chaff is to use Bill Greener's ABC's a message that we talked about Friday. And, it's, do I agree? So this is bringing the voters in. Do they agree with your position? Do they think you can be able to do something about it? And do they actually care? So these are the things that they are going to be thinking about it. So agree, be able to do something about it, and care. Those are the three things. So we talked about the car tax was one of the examples that we used back in 2000. Let's see, maybe it was 1999. It's been a while ago. I think it was maybe 1999 was when the campaign was, when Governor Gilmore was running in Virginia, and they talked about the car tax, and it was something that people agreed with him on. They wanted to have lower taxes. It's something they thought he could be able to do something about, and they actually cared about it because it would make a difference for them. So that was the basic deciding factor as to that was the thing they were going to focus on. So you can use that. Sean, any thoughts as to how to take that after the Olson Strategy Sweet Spot to start picking those tactical issues and the larger messages that you would be talking about?
Yeah. Look, I think that's right. So it really is the last place to go drill down, and get to it. And it also helps with simplicity. Like, you mentioned the car tax. We've had other issues where it's just very simple. The difference is simple. You've determined that the voters care about it, and they get that you can do something about it. And I think that is probably the thing that, and you don't have to be able to say how you'll do something about it necessarily.
Mhm.
They just they need to believe. So, it's agree, believe, and care in my mind.
Mhm.
Um, I think on the big idea, it was build the wall, right, for President Trump. He didn't say here are the schematics and here's the 10-point plan to build the wall.
Yep.
He just said, we're going to build the wall, and we're going to stop drug running and all this other stuff on the southern border. And people are like, okay, I agree with that. I care about that. And I don't know how the guy is going to do it, but by golly, I think he's going to do it. And so that was one thing. But I think it's clear the Governor Gilmore example is a very clear one. People got like, yeah, the governor could repeal this thing tomorrow if he wanted to. So in the ability of it, and they got it, and normally that is the thing, particularly about when it comes to taxes or some of these things. It was Obamacare for a while. The reason voters cared about it is these things were showing up right before the election. News of your premiums going up showed up right before the election.
Mhm.
It's just how the quarterly billing worked at these places. Um, so people were like, "Oh yeah, I forgot I was mad about this." Um, but
Yeah, recency bias is one of the things that's going to have an impact.
yeah,
And through all of this, if you started with your vision, it should be breathing life into it. Honestly, if you are in the middle of the fight and this is always you have this North Star, it actually makes it easier to come up with ideas and to think about what is actually pertinent to use these tools. These tools are all much more useful and easy to use if you've started with that vision conversation, because you just have to think about how would my vision apply and how would I be able to bring it into this whole conversation to the winning is really important to be able to have your intention become reality. But if you don't have an intention, then what is it you're actually out to do?
yeah,
And that's one of the things we have missing. I really appreciate the comment that bringing up our theory of communication, the power of air, which is the next thing. Once you have these messages, the thing to do is to get the 100% of communication starts with attention, and uh, and then it goes to intention, having the context is decisive, the frame being able to put your frame on it, that you can only take action on what you can think to do. That so if you want to get people to see the choice that you're presenting, and then to have it actually stick with people, that they can actually remember what it is that you're talking about. That's the next thing. So that is thank you for mentioning it. But that is the actual doing of it is how you actually get it to have an impact on your audience as you go through. So that's a pretty weighty, and I say weighty in a good way. It's meaty. This is you just got a master course on how to take your vision into a place where you actually have a choice, the message, and how to bring in the tactics, the different issues and topics into all of that, and then be able to. So there you go. All
yeah.
right, I get an A today. Yes, you do. That
Mm.
is, you absolutely do get an A today, and thank you for that. So that's really fun.
And really getting engaged on this, like, um, really taking a real, hard look at what it is that, um, whether it's serving in office or creating that organization that's going to make a difference, whatever it is, when you really say, okay, here's what's possible out of it, then it really gives everything to live into. Um, so, feel free to dive into that. That is what's going to make a difference for you. Um, And then out of that, you know, a lot of people are going to say, okay, well, the message is what the most important thing is. And a lot of people will tell you that. And it's not that we don't think the message is important. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about it today.
Yeah.
It just is not the driving force of a campaign. And when it is, it makes governing more difficult. I actually think that was part of I think you know, President Obama had what could have very well been a vision, hope and change. But that became the message, hope and change. And so, and people liked that. But when he got in, it really made it more difficult to govern because he really didn't have anything under it. And so that's where a
It
message.
didn't call you forth to anything. There wasn't like clear actions to do. That's the thing about a great vision is it calls you forth. It has people come around something that's bigger than any one person, and it calls you forth. It has the what there is to say be clear to you. It has what actions there are to take be clear for you. So that's the essence of a great vision. And everyone has something internal to them, something that really kind of speaks to their soul. It might seem a little bit metaphysical, but every single person has a little bit of something there that is really like imprinted on their soul that they are about. And you just have to, keep looking to see what's there. And you don't have to have it immediately. I would say that for most of our candidates that we work with, it might take months of actually really looking to figure out what it is.
Yep.
And it might be different from, if they're running for re-election or something.
Exactly. So, yeah, but living into that, it's going to, and it just makes all the actions that have to happen be easier for you. We have found. So,
and it makes the challenges, the losses, it makes all of that a lot easier because ultimately your purpose, when you have to make the tough choices and it's really clear that tough choice is in service of your greater vision, it just makes it a lot easier to live with the decision that you make in that moment. So this has been I really appreciate everybody's thoughts and great comments. Thank you for the shout out to the red, white, and blue diagrams. I do intentionally pick those two colors because I think it goes very nice with our palette. But anyway, thank you for noticing that. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, look, hey, are you thinking about running for office, or do you want to have a conversation about taking what's there with your vision and really, unearthing the essence of it? That is what we at Olson Strategies do better than anybody in the business. So it's olsonstrategies.com, OLSON strategies.com. Schedule your conversation with us today. It's Sean, SEAN, at olsonstrategies.com, or Dustin at olsonstrategies.com, or you can schedule right there on the website. So do that today.
Awesome. And real quick, if you want to become a part of our Political Trade Secrets Insiders, please go to politicaltradesecrets.com. You can actually watch the live stream there every day. And you can also, if you sign up, get exclusive stuff. Thank you to everybody who's been signing up. We've had quite a few people sign up in the last couple weeks. And we are continuing to grow and build and use other different avenues to be able to engage people. And it really, I get the sense that we are helping conservatives in this moment figure out their vision and really empowering them to take on reigniting American patriotism, take on having our country really embracing what makes our country great and bringing our people together around that. So please do go check that out.
Yeah. And we're also proud to be sponsored by Grassfire. It's www.grassfire.us. Canvassing, petitioning, live calling. Once you have what it is that you're setting out to do in the world, have that one-on-one, those one-on-one conversations have the impact needed to deliver victory for you. So it's in front of the grocery store, on the doorstep, or over the phone. Grassfire at www.grassfire.us. They also fuel 10centtexting.com. This is your way to connect with voters right where they are. Everyone has their mobile device with them. Make sure that you are getting your message directly to them. Image, GIF, short video, right there in the body of that text message. A picture paints 1,000 words. Well, make sure that your text has that kind of impact on the voters, and deliver it today. Justin?
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. And thank you for a great episode, Sean, and for your insights, advice, and clear thinking on these issues. And for the audience, thank you for all of your great points and ideas, and for adding to the show. And thank you for mentioning interns and fellows again. And you can go to politicaltradesecrets.com, sign up, and also mention that you'd like to be an intern or fellow. Well, we'll have a specific intern and fellow sign up at some point in the near future. And then also ShareForce. Be sure to join ShareForce, make a difference, and reignite American patriotism. And reignite American patriotism. That's what it's all about. So thank you for sharing the episode. We do appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, Sean, any last thoughts to leave folks with as we head off into our day?
Well, I hope everybody has a happy Tuesday. Thanks everybody for joining us, and really enjoyed the conversation. I think we got a lot of great information out there for folks. So we really appreciate the opportunity to share that and to share with all of you. So thanks again.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. It's been another episode of Political Trade Secrets. Check us out again tomorrow at roughly 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And we look forward to having you back here with us at our headquarters. Thank you very much.
Join us next time by subscribing on iTunes, and get show notes and sign up for our newsletter at politicaltradesecrets.com.